DIN 11865. The new revision was just published. DIN 11865 is a German standard for stainless steel components for tube systems. Tube systems used for two industrial applications. First is food and dairy industry, and the second, with higher demands, is the chemical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and biotechnology. This standard is currently only available in German, but a translation into English is planned for end of the year. So components with regard to this standards are tubes, fittings, machine components, and couplings, hygienic couplings. So the DIN 11865 itself covers T-pieces, reducers, and elbows to weld on. So what does this standard specify? First, there are three series, dimensional series. Series A covers metric dimensions, Series B covers ISO dimensions, and Series C covers imperial dimensions, inch units. So Series C was already harmonized with the weld fittings of ASME BPE Part DT. There are three austenitic stainless steels specified in this standard. It's 1.4404, 1.4435, and the super austenitic stainless steel 1.4539. All of these are also specified in ASME BPE Part MM, except that ASME BPE requires a restricted sulfur content, which DIN 11865 does not. Furthermore, we have requirements regarding tolerances. Tolerances of ovality, minimum wall thickness, and the geometry on the weld ends. The minimum required wall thickness in the band area of elbows is 65% of the nominal wall thickness, whereas the minimum wall thickness in the colored area of T-pieces is 75% of the nominal wall. This is because these minimum wall thickness are the basis for the pressure calculations given in the standard. Furthermore, we have surface finish criteria. Surface finish criteria based on RA, surface roughness. So surface roughness is the decisive factor for a classification which is called hygienic class. So there are hygienic classes based on the RA on the ID, and a separate hygienic class for electropolished surfaces on the ID. For example, an H3 means an ID surface with an RA of 0.8 micrometer or better. This is it's comparable but not equivalent to the requirements of ASME BPE Part SF, the surface finish designations. Furthermore, there are requirements specified for visual inspection of the ID and the OD surface, mainly the ID surface. So in table 17, there are criteria given for acceptance criteria given for any kind of indications you might observe on an ID, like a pit, like a cluster of pits, or like a scratch. Table 18 covers the acceptance criteria for visual inspection of welds, which is mainly the T-piece weld to connect the main to the branch. So these criteria, acceptance criteria, are in line with ASME BPE Part MJ material joining, as well as with ISO 5817. And last but not least, there is table 19 for additional acceptance criteria only applicable to electropolished surfaces. Again, absolutely in line with ASME BPE requirements. The next part of that standard covers the marking requirements. It is mandatory to mark the heat number, the material grade, the manufacturer, a reference to the standard, which is DIN 11865, the hygienic class, and OD times wall thickness. That's the minimum requirement for the marking of these components, again in line with ASME BPE DT 11.1 requirements. Inspection, examination and inspection shall be done on a sample basis. This is also defined. So with 100% visual inspection, there is a sampling of RA, ID, OD, dimensional check, ferrite measurement if specified. This is an option only. Marking needs to be verified. And documentation is pretty much a COC or an inspection certificate 3.1 according to EN 10205. So what is new about this standard, this revision compared to the 2012 revision, the latest one? This, I would like just to cover two topics here. So the first is, in this standard now, in the 2020 revision, there is not just the short T's and the regular T's, but there is a T, it's called TM, with half the size approximately of the branch, only for ISO dimensions in this revision. And this is the intention of this is to allow users to weld on diaphragm valves without any further preparation of the branch, and to achieve the 3D rule for hygienic design. So this is a new dimension in there between the short and the long versions, only for Series B in this revision. If this turns out to be a market requirement, Series A and Series C might get these additional TP's dimensions as well in the upcoming revision. And the second new topic here is that there are two options for the TP's weld. Again, this is absolutely the same as with ASME BPE. There are two options. The first one is that the TP's weld here is to be polished, flush and smooth with a base metal on the ID and the OD, still maintaining the minimum of 75% of the nominal wall in all areas. So this is the first option, and the second option is to leave that TP's weld in the as welded condition that has to meet the requirements of Table 18, which I mentioned earlier, and would be exactly the same requirement on a weld as the three other welds on the TP's when getting installed needs to meet. So that's the overview about the new revision about DIN 11865. The English translation is coming out soon.